Today I will be reading Ghost Camp by R.L. Stine from the Goosebumps series. I'm feeling perhaps, unfortunately, a bit Halloweenish due to the shops putting out Halloween stuff quite early, and in a desperate bid to hang on to summer vibes, I thought I would do some summer camp style nostalgia. Anyway, Chapter 1. "You know I get bus sick, Harry," Alex groaned. "Alex, give me a break." I shoved my brother against the window. "We're almost there. Don't start thinking about getting bus sick now." The bus rumbled over the narrow road. I held onto the seat in front of me. I gazed out the window. Nothing but pine trees. They whirred past in a blur of green. Sunlight bounced off the dusty glass of the window. "We're almost to Camp Spirit Moon," I thought happily. I couldn't wait to get off the bus. My brother Alex and I were the only passengers. It was kind of creepy. The driver was hidden in front of a green curtain. I had glimpsed him as Alex and I climbed on board. He had a nice smile, a great suntan, curly blonde hair, and a silver earring in one ear. "Welcome, dudes," he greeted us. Once the long bus ride began, we didn't see him or hear from him again. Creepy. Luckily, Alex and I get along okay. He's a year younger than me. He's 11, but he's tall as I am. Some people call us the Altman twins, even though we're not twins. We both have straight black hair, dark brown eyes, and serious faces. Our parents are always telling us to cheer up, even when we're in really good moods. "I feel a little bus sick, Harry," Alex complained. I turned away from the window. Alex suddenly looked very yellow. His chin trembled, a bad sign. "Alex, pretend you're not on a bus," I told him. "Pretend you're in a car." "But I get car sick too," he groaned. "Forget the car," I said. "Bad idea. Alex can get car sick when Mom backs down the driveway." It's a really bad news habit of his. His face turns a sick yellow. He starts to shake. And then it gets kind of messy. "You've got to hold on," I told him. "We'll be at camp soon, and then you'll be fine." He swallowed hard. The bus bounced over a deep hole in the road. Alex and I bounced with it. "I really feel sick," Alex moaned. "I know," I cried. "Sing a song. That always cures you. Sing a song, Alex. Sing it really loud. No one will hear. We're the only ones on the bus." Alex loves to sing. He has a beautiful voice. The music teacher at school says that Alex has perfect pitch. I'm not sure what that means, but I know it's a good thing. Alex is serious about his singing. He's in the chorus at school. Dad says he's going to find a voice teacher for Alex this fall. I stared at my brother as the bus bounced again. His face was about as yellow as a banana skin. Not a good sign. "Go ahead, sing," I urged him. Alex's chin trembled. He cleared his throat. Then he began to sing a Beatles song we both really like. His voice bounced every time the bus bumped, but he started to look better as soon as he started to sing. "Pretty smart idea, Harry," I congratulated myself. I watched the pine trees whir past in the sunlight and listened to Alex's song. He really does have an awesome voice. Am I jealous? Maybe a little. But he can't hit a tennis ball the way I can, and I can beat him in a swim race every time, so it evens out. Alex stopped singing. He shook his head unhappily. "I wish Mom and Dad signed me up for the music camp," he sighed. "Alex, the summer is half over," I reminded him. "How many times do we have to go over this? Mom and Dad waited too long, and it was too late." "I know," Alex said, frowning, "but I wish." "Camp Spirit Moon was the only camp we could get into this late in the summer," I said. "Hey, look." I spotted 2 deer outside the window, a tall one and a little baby one. They were just standing there, staring at the bus as it sped by. "Yeah, cool, deer," Alex muttered. He rolled his eyes. "Hey, lighten up," I told him. My brother is so moody. Sometimes I just want to shake him. "Camp Spirit Moon may be the coolest camp on Earth," I said. "Or it may be a dump," Alex replied. He picked at some stuffing that poked up from a hole in the bus seat. "The music camp is so great," he sighed. They put on 2 musicals each summer. That would have been so awesome. Alex, forget about it, I told him. Let's enjoy Camp Spirit Moon. We only have a few weeks. The bus suddenly screeched to a stop. Startled, I bounced forward, then back. I turned to the window, expecting to see a camp out there. But all I could see were pine trees, and more pine trees. Camp Spirit Moon, everybody out, the driver called. Everybody? It was just Alex and me. The driver poked his blonde head out from behind the curtain. He grinned at us. How was the ride, dudes? He asked. Great, I replied, stepping into the aisle. Alex didn't say anything. The driver climbed out. We followed him around the side of the bus. Bright sunlight made the tall grass sparkle all around us. He leaned into a compartment and pulled out our bags and sleeping bags. He set everything down on the grass. Where's the camp? Alex asked. I shielded my eyes with my hand and searched around. The narrow road curved through a forest of pine trees as far as I could see. Right through there, dudes, the driver said. He pointed to a dirt path that cut through the trees. It's a real short walk. You can't miss it. The driver shut the baggage compartment. He climbed back onto the bus. Have a great time, he called. The door shut. The bus roared away. Alex and I squinted through the bright sunlight at the dirt path. I swung my duffel bag over my shoulder. Then I tucked my sleeping bag under one arm. Shouldn't the camp send us someone out here to greet us? Alex asked. I shrugged. You heard the driver. He said it's a very short walk. But still, Alex argued. Can they send a counselor to meet us out here on the road? It's not the first day of camp, I reminded him. It's the middle of the summer. Stop complaining about everything, Alex. Pick up your stuff, and let's get going. It's hot out here. Sometimes I just have to be the big brother and order him around. Otherwise, we won't get anywhere. He picked up his stuff, and I led the way to the path. Our sneakers crunched over the dry red dirt as we made our way through the trees. The driver hadn't lied. We'd walked only 2 or 3 minutes when we came to a small grassy clearing. A wooden sign with red painted letters proclaimed Camp Spirit Moon. An arrow pointed to the right. See, we're here, I declared cheerfully. We followed a short path up a low, sloping hill. 2 brown rabbits scurried past, nearly in front of our feet. Red and yellow wildflowers swayed along the side of the hill. When we reached the top, we could see the camp. It looks like a real camp, I exclaimed. I could see rows of little white cabins stretching in front of the round blue lake. Several canoes were tied to a wooden dock that stuck out into the lake. A large stone building stood off to the side, probably the mess hall or the meeting lodge. A round dirt area near the woods had benches around it, for campfires, I guessed. Hey, Harry, they have a baseball diamond and a soccer field, Alex said, pointing. Excellent, I cried. I saw a row of round red and white targets at the edge of the trees. Wow, they have archery too, I told Alex. I love archery. I'm pretty good at it. I shifted the heavy duffel bag on my shoulder. We started down the hill to the camp. We both stopped halfway down the hill and stared at each other. Do you notice anything weird? Alex asked. I nodded. Yeah, I do. I noticed something very weird. Something that made my throat tighten and my stomach suddenly feel heavy with dread. The camp was empty. No one was there. Where is everyone? I asked, moving my eyes from cabin to cabin. No one in sight. I squinted at the lake behind the cabins. 2 small, dark birds glided low over the sparkling water. No one swimming there. I turned to the woods that surrounded the camp. The afternoon sun had begun to lower itself over the pine trees. No sign of any campers in the woods. Maybe we're in the wrong place, Alex said softly. Huh? Wrong place? I pointed to the sign. How can we be in the wrong place? It says Camp Spirit Moon, doesn't it? Maybe they all went on a field trip or something, Alex suggested. I rolled my eyes. Don't you know anything about camp? I snapped. You don't go on field trips. There's nowhere to go. You don't have to shout, Alex whined. Then stop saying such stupid things, I replied angrily. We're all alone in the woods in an empty camp. We've got to think clearly. Maybe they're all in that big stone building over there, Alex suggested. Let's go check it out. I didn't see any signs of life there. Nothing moved. The whole camp was as still as a photograph. Yeah, come on, I told Alex. We might as well check it out. We were still about halfway down the hill, following the path through the tangles of pine trees, when a loud cry made us both stop and gasp in surprise. Yo, hey, wait up! A red-haired boy in white tennis shorts and a white t-shirt appeared behind us. I guessed he was 16 or 17. Hey, where did you come from? I cried. He really startled me. 1 second Alex and I were alone. The next second, this red-haired guy was standing there grinning at us. He pointed to the woods. I was gathering firewood, he explained. I lost track of the time. Are you a counselor? I asked. He wiped sweat off his forehead with the front of his t-shirt. Yes, my name is Chris. You're Harry, and you're Alex, right? Alex and I nodded. I'm sorry I'm late, Chris apologized. You weren't worried, were you? Of course not, I replied quickly. Harry was a little scared, but I wasn't, Alex said. Sometimes Alex can really be a pain. Where is everyone? I asked Chris. We didn't see any campers or counselors or anyone. They all left, Chris replied. He shook his head sadly. When he turned back to Alex and me, I saw the frightened expression on his face. The three of us. We're all alone out here, he said in a trembling voice. Huh? They left? Alex cried shrilly. But where did they go? We can't be all alone, I cried. The woods. A smile spread over Chris's freckled face. Then he burst out laughing. Sorry, guys, I can't keep a straight face. He put his arms around our shoulders and just led us toward the camp. I'm just joking. Excuse me? That was a joke? I demanded. I was feeling very confused. It's a Camp Spirit Moon joke, Chris explained, still grinning. We play it on all the new campers. Everyone hides in the woods. And when the new campers arrive at camp, then a counselor tells them that the campers all ran away. That they're all alone. Ha ha, very funny joke, I said sarcastically. You always try to scare the new campers? Alex asked. Chris nodded. Yeah, it's a Camp Spirit Moon tradition. We have a lot of great traditions here, you'll see. Tonight at the campfire. He stopped when a big black-haired man, also dressed in white, came lumbering across the grass toward us. Yo, the man called in a booming, deep voice. This is Uncle Marv, Chris whispered. He runs the camp. Yo, Uncle Marv repeated as he stepped up to us. Harry, what's up? He slapped me a high five that nearly knocked me into the trees. Uncle Marv grinned down at Alex and me. He was so huge, he reminded me of a big grizzly bear at the zoo back home. He had long, greasy black hair that fell wildly over his face. Tiny, round blue eyes like marbles, under bushy black eyebrows. His arms bulged out from under his t-shirt, powerful arms like a wrestler's. His neck was as wide as a tree trunk. He reached down and shook Alex's hand. I heard a loud crunch and saw Alex gasp in pain. Good firm handshake, son, Uncle Marv told Alex. He turned to me. Did Chris play our little joke alone in the woods on you guys? His voice boomed so loud I wanted to cover my ears. Does Uncle Marv ever whisper? I wondered. Yeah, he fooled us, I confessed. I really thought there was no one here. Uncle Marv's tiny blue eyes sparkled. It's one of our oldest traditions, he said, grinning. What a grin. It looked to me as if he had at least 6 rows of teeth. Before I take you to your cabin, I want to teach you the Camp Spirit Moon greeting, Uncle Marv said. Chris and I will show it to you. They stood facing each other. Yo, spirits, Uncle Marv bellowed. Yo, spirits, Chris boomed back. Then they gave each other a left-handed salute, placing the hand on the nose, then swinging it straight out in the air. That's how Camp Spirit Moon campers greet each other, Alex Marv told us. He pushed Alex and me together. You two try it. I don't know about you, but this kind of thing embarrasses me. I don't like funny greetings and salutes. It makes me feel like a jerk. But I had just arrived at camp, and I didn't want Uncle Marv to think I was a bad sport, so I stood in front of my brother. Yo, spirits, I shouted and gave Alex a sharp nose salute. Yo, spirits, Alex showed a lot more enthusiasm than I did. He likes this kind of thing. He flashed me a sharp salute. Uncle Marv tossed back his head in a loud, bellowing laugh. Very good, guys. I think you're both going to be great Spirit Moon campers. He winked at Chris. Of course, the campfire tonight is the real test. Chris nodded, grinning. The campfire tonight? I asked. A test? Uncle Marv patted my shoulder. Don't worry about it, Harry. Something about the way he said that made me worry. A lot. All new campers come to a welcoming campfire, Chris explained. It's a chance to learn our Camp Spirit Moon traditions. Don't tell them any more about it, Uncle Marv told Chris sharply. We want them to be surprised, don't we? Surprised? I choked out. Why did I suddenly have such a bad feeling? Why did my throat tighten up again? Why did I have a fluttering feeling in my chest? Do we sing camp songs at the welcoming campfire? Alex asked. I'm really into singing. I take voice lessons back home, and don't worry, you'll sing plenty. Uncle Marv interrupted in a low, almost menacing voice. I caught the cold look in his tiny eyes, cold as blue ice, and I felt a shiver roll down my back. He's trying to scare us, I thought. It's all a joke. He's having fun with us. He always tries to scare new campers. It's a Camp Spirit Moon tradition. I think you boys will enjoy the campfire tonight, Uncle Marv boomed. If you survive it. He and Chris shared a laugh. Catch you later, Chris said. He gave Alex and me a nose salute and vanished into the woods. This will be your bunk, Uncle Marv announced. He pulled open the screen door of a tiny white cabin. Whoa, he nearly pulled the door off its hinges. Alex and I dragged our duffels and sleeping bags into the cabin. I saw bunk beds against 3 of the walls, narrow wooden chests of drawers, cubby holes for storing things. The walls were white. A light dangling from the ceiling cast a bright glow. The afternoon sun sent orange rays through a small window above one of the bunk beds. Not bad, I thought. That bunk is free, Uncle Marv told us, pointing to the bed against the window. You can decide who gets the top and who gets the bottom. I need the bottom, Alex said quickly. I toss and turn a lot at night. And he sings in his sleep, I told Uncle Marv. Do you believe it? Alex is so into singing, he doesn't even stop when he's sleeping. You will have to try that out for the talent show, Uncle Marv told Alex. And then he repeated in a low voice, If you survive tonight. He laughed. Why did he keep saying that? He's kidding, I reminded myself. Uncle Marv is just kidding. The boys' cabins are on the left, Uncle Marv told us, and the girls' cabins are on the right. We all use the lodge and mess hall. It's that big stone building near the woods. Should we unpack now? Alex asked. Uncle Marv pushed back his greasy black hair. Yes, use any cubbies that are empty. You'd better hurry, guys. The rest of the campers will be back from the woods soon with firewood. It will be time for our campfire. He gave us a yo spirits and a sharp-nosed salute. Then he turned and lumbered away. The screen door slammed hard behind him. Fun guy, I muttered. He's kind of scary, Alex admitted. He's just joking, I said. All summer camps try to terrify the new campers, I think. I dragged my duffel bag over to the bed. But it's all in fun. There's nothing to be scared about, Alex, I told my brother. Nothing at all. I tossed my sleeping bag into the corner. Then I started toward the low dresser to see if I could find an empty drawer. Whoa, I cried out as my sneaker stuck on something. I peered down. A blue puddle. My sneaker had landed in a sticky blue puddle. Hey, I tugged my sneaker out. The blue liquid was thick. It stuck to the bottom and sides of my shoe. I glanced around the room and saw more blue puddles. A sticky blue puddle in front of every bed. What's going on here? What is this stuff? I cried. Alex had his bag open and was pulling stuff out and spreading it on the bottom bed. What's your problem, Harry? He called without turning around. It's some kind of blue slime, I replied. Check it out. There are puddles all over the floor. Big deal, Alex muttered. He turned and glanced at the blue liquid stuck to my sneaker. It's probably a camp tradition, he joked. I didn't think it was funny. Yuck, I exclaimed. I reached down and poked my finger into the tiny, round puddle. So cold. The blue slime felt freezing cold. Startled, I pulled my hand away. The cold swept up my arm. I shook my hand hard, then rubbed it, trying to warm it. Weird, I muttered. Of course, everything got a lot weirder in a hurry. Campfire time, Uncle Marv's cry through the screen door shook our cabin. Alex and I spun to face the door. It had taken us forever to unpack our stuff. To my surprise, the sun had lowered. The sky outside the door was evening gray. "Everyone is waiting," Uncle Marv announced. A gleeful smile spread over his face. His tiny eyes practically disappeared in the smile. We all love the welcoming campfire. Alex and I followed him outside. I took a deep breath. The air smelled fresh and piney. "Wow," Alex cried out. The campfire was already blazing. Orange and yellow flames leaped up to the gray sky. We followed Uncle Marv to the round clearing where the fire had been built and saw the other campers and counselors for the first time. They sat around the fire, all facing us, watching us. "They're all dressed alike," I exclaimed. "The camp uniform," Uncle Marv said. "I'll get you and Alex your camp uniforms tonight, after the campfire." As Alex and I neared the circle, the campers and counselors rose to their feet. A deafening, "Yo, spirits," shook the trees. Then 100 left-handed nose salutes greeted us. Alex and I returned the greeting. Chris, the red-haired counselor, appeared beside us. "Welcome, guys," he said. "We're going to roast hot dogs on the fire before the campfire activities begin. So grab a stick and a hot dog and join in." The other kids were lining up in front of a long food table. I saw a huge platter of raw hot dogs in the center of the table. As I hurried to get in line, several kids said hi to me. "You're in my cabin," a tall boy with curly blonde hair said. "It's the best cabin." "Cabin number 7 rules," a girl shouted. "This is an awesome camp," the kid in front of me turned to say. "You're going to have a great time, Harry." They seemed to be really nice kids. Up ahead, a boy and a girl were having a playful shoving match, trying to knock each other out of line. Other kids began cheering them on. The fire crackled behind me. The orange light from its flames danced over everyone's white shorts and shirts. I felt a little weird, not being dressed in white. I was wearing an olive green t-shirt and faded denim cutoffs. I wondered if Alex felt weird too. I turned and searched for him in the line. He was behind me, talking excitedly to a short blonde boy. I felt glad that Alex had found a friend so fast. 2 counselors handed out the hot dogs. I suddenly realized I was starving. Mom had packed sandwiches for Alex and me to eat on the bus, but we were too excited and nervous to eat them. I took the hot dog and turned to the crackling fire. Several kids were already huddled around the fire, poking their hot dogs on long sticks into the flames. "Where do I get a stick?" I asked myself, glancing around. "The sticks are over there," a girl's voice called from behind me, as if she had read my mind. I turned and saw a girl about my age, dressed in white, of course. She was very pretty, with dark eyes and shiny black hair, pulled back in a ponytail that fell down her back. Her skin was so pale, her dark eyes appeared to glow. She smiled at me. "New kids never know where to find the sticks," she said. She led the way to a pile of sticks leaning against a tall pine tree. She picked up 2 of them and handed one to me. "Your name is Harry, right?" she asked. She had a deep, husky voice for a girl, like she was whispering all the time. "Yeah, Harry Altman," I told her. I suddenly felt very shy. I don't know why. I turned away from her and shoved the hot dog onto the end of my stick. "My name is Lucy," she said, making her way to the circle of kids around the fire. I followed her. The kids' faces were all flickering orange and yellow in the firelight. The aroma of roasting hot dogs made me feel even hungrier. 4 girls were huddled together, laughing about something. I saw a boy eating his roasted hot dog right off the stick. "Gross," Lucy said, making a disgusted face. "Let's go over here." She led me to the other side of the campfire. Something popped in the fire. It sounded like a firecracker exploding. We both jumped. Lucy laughed. We sat down on the grass, raised the long sticks, and poked our hot dogs into the flames. The fire was roaring now. I could feel its heat on my face. "I like mine really black," Lucy said. She turned her stick and pushed it deeper into the flames. "I just love that burnt taste. How about you?" I opened my mouth to answer her, but my hot dog fell off the stick. "Oh no," I cried. I watched it fall into the sizzling, red-hot blanket of flames. I turned to Lucy. and to my surprise and my horror, she leaned forward, stuck her hand deep into the fire, grabbed my hot dog from the burning embers, and lifted it out. I jumped to my feet. "Your hand!" I shrieked. Yellow flames leaped over her hand and up her arm. She handed me the hot dog. "Here," she said calmly. "But your hand!" I cried again, gaping in horror. The flames slowly burned low on her skin. She glanced down at her hand, confused, as if she didn't know why I was in such a panic. "Oh, hey," she finally cried. Her dark eyes grew wide. "Ow, that was hot," she exclaimed. She shook her hand hard, shook it until the flames went out. Then she laughed. "At least I rescued your poor hot dog. Hope you like yours burned." But, I sputtered. I stared at her arm and her hand. The flames had spread all over her skin, but I couldn't see any burns. Not a mark. "The buns are over there," she said. "You want some potato chips?" I kept staring at her hand. "Should we find the nurse?" I asked. She rubbed her arm and wrist. "No, I'm fine, really." She wiggled her fingers. "See? But the fire... Come on, Harry." She pulled me back to the food table. It's almost time for the campfire activities to start. I ran into Alex at the food table. He was still hanging out with the short blonde boy. "I made a friend already," Alex told me. He had a mouthful of potato chips. "His name is Elvis. Do you believe it? Elvis McGraw. He's in our cabin." "Cool," I muttered. I was still thinking about the flames rolling up and down Lucy's arm. "This is a great camp," Alex declared. "Elvis and I are going to try out for the talent show and the musical." "Cool," I repeated. I grabbed a hot dog bun and tossed some potato chips on my plate. Then I searched for Lucy. I saw her talking to a group of girls by the fire. "Yo, spirits!" a deep voice bellowed. No way anyone could mistake that cry. It had to be Uncle Marv. "Places around the council campfire, everyone," he ordered. "Hurry, places, everyone." Holding plates and cans of soda, everyone scurried to form a circle around the fire. The girls all sat together, and the boys all sat together. I guess each cabin had its own place. Uncle Marv led Alex and me to a spot in the middle. "Yo, spirits!" he cried again, so loud the fire trembled. Everyone repeated the cry and gave the salute. "We'll begin by singing our camp song," Uncle Marv announced. Everyone stood up. Uncle Marv started singing, and everyone joined in. I tried to sing along, but of course I didn't know the words. Or the tune. The song kept repeating the line, "We have the spirit, and the spirit has us." I didn't really understand it, but I thought it was pretty cool. It was a long song. It had a lot of verses, and it always came back to, "We have the spirit, and the spirit has us." Alex was singing at the top of his lungs. What a show-off. He didn't know the words either, but he was faking it and singing as loud as he could. Alex is so crazy about his beautiful singing voice and his perfect pitch, he has to show it off whenever he can. I gazed past my brother. His new friend Elvis had his head tossed back and his mouth wide open. He was singing at the top of his lungs, too. I think Alex and Elvis were having some kind of contest, seeing who could sing the leaves off the trees. The only problem, Elvis was a terrible singer. He had a high, whiny voice, and his notes were all coming out sour. As my dad would say, he couldn't carry a tune in a wheelbarrow. I wanted to cover my ears, but I was trying to sing along, too. It wasn't easy with the two of them beside me. Alex sang so loud I could see the veins in his neck pulsing. Elvis tried to drown him out with his sour, off-key wails. My face felt hot. At first, I thought it was the heat from the blazing campfire, but then I realized I was blushing. I felt so embarrassed by Alex, showing off like that on his first night at camp. Uncle Marv wasn't watching. He had wandered over to the girls' side of the fire, singing as he walked. I slipped back, away from the fire. I felt too embarrassed to stay there. I'll sneak back into place as soon as the song is over, I decided. I just couldn't sit there and watch my brother act like a total jerk. The camp song continued. "We have the spirit, and the spirit has us," everyone sang. Doesn't the song ever end, I wondered. I backed away into the trees. It felt a lot cooler as soon as I moved away from the fire. Even back here, I could hear Alex singing his heart out. I've got to talk to him, I told myself. Gotta tell him that it isn't cool to show off like that. Oh! I let out a sharp cry as I felt a tap on my shoulder. Someone grabbed me from behind. Hey! I spun around to face the trees, squinted into the darkness. Lucy, what are you doing back here? I gasped. Help me, Harry, she pleaded in a whisper. You've got to help me. A chill ran down my back. Lucy, what's wrong? I whispered. She opened her mouth to reply, but Uncle Marv's booming voice interrupted. Hey, you two, the camp director shouted. Harry, Lucy, no sneaking off into the woods. The campers all burst out laughing. I could feel my face turning hot again. I'm one of those kids who blushes very easily. I hate it, but what can I do? Everyone stared at Lucy and me as we made our way back to the fire. Alex and Elvis were slapping high fives and laughing at us. Uncle Marv kept his eyes on me as I trudged back. I'm glad you make friends so easily, Harry, he boomed, and all the campers started laughing at Lucy and me again. I felt so embarrassed I wanted to shrivel up and disappear. But I was also worried about Lucy. Why had she followed me into the woods? Why did she ask me to help her? I sat down between Lucy and Elvis. Lucy, what's wrong? I whispered. She just shook her head. She didn't look at me. Now I'm going to tell the 2 ghost stories, Uncle Marv announced. To my surprise, some kids gasped. Everyone suddenly became silent. The crackling of the fire seemed to get louder. Behind the pop and crackle of the darting flames, I heard the steady whisper of wind through the pine trees. I felt a chill on the back of my neck. Just a cool breeze, I told myself. Why did everyone suddenly look so solemn, so frightened? The 2 ghost stories of Camp Crystal Moon have been told from generation to generation, Uncle Marv began. They are tales that will be told for all time, for as long as dark legends are told. Across the fire, I saw a couple of kids shiver. Everyone stared into the fire. Their faces were set, grim, frightened. It's only a ghost story, I told myself. Why is everyone acting so weird? The campers must have heard these ghost stories already this summer, so why did they look so terrified? I snickered. How can anyone be afraid of a silly camp ghost story? I turned to Lucy. What's up with these kids? I asked. She narrowed her dark eyes at me. Aren't you afraid of ghosts? She whispered. Ghosts? I snickered again. Alex and I don't believe in ghosts, I told her. And ghost stories never scare us. Never. She leaned close to me and whispered in my ear. You might change your mind after tonight. The flames flickered, crackling up to the dark, starry sky. Uncle Marv leaned into the orange firelight. His tiny, round eyes sparkled. The woods suddenly became quiet. Even the wind stopped whispering. The air felt cold on my back. I scooted closer to the campfire. I saw others move closer too. No one talked. All eyes were on Uncle Marv's smiling face. Then, in a low voice, he told the first ghost story. A group of campers went into the woods for an overnight. They carried tents and sleeping bags. They walked single file along a narrow dirt path that twisted through the trees. Their counselor's name was John. He led them deeper and deeper into the woods. Dark clouds floated overhead. When the clouds covered the full moon, the darkness swept over the campers. They walked close together, trying to see the curving path. Sometimes the clouds moved away, and the moonlight poured down on them. The trees glowed silvery and cold, like ghosts standing in the forest. They sang songs at first, but as they moved deeper into the woods, their voices became tiny and shrill, muffled by the trees. They stopped singing and listened to the scrape of their footsteps and the soft rustlings of night animals scampering through the weeds. When are we going to stop and set up camp? A girl asked John. We have to go deeper into the woods, John replied. They kept walking. The air became colder. The trees bent and shivered around them in a swirling breeze. Can we set up camp now, John? A boy asked. No. Deeper, John replied. Deeper into the forest. The path ended. The campers had to make their way through the trees, around thorny bushes, over a deep carpet of crackling dead leaves. Owls hooted overhead. The campers heard the flutter of bat wings. Creatures scratched and slithered around their feet. We're really tired, John, the boy complained. Can we stop and set up the tents? Deeper into the woods, John insisted. An overnight is no fun unless you are deep, deep in the woods. So they kept walking, listening to the low hoots and moans of the night animals, watching the old trees bend and sway all around them. Finally, they stepped out into a smooth, wide clearing. Can we set up camp now, John? The campers begged. Yes, John agreed. We are deep in the woods now. This is the perfect place. The campers dropped all the bags and supplies in the middle of the clearing. Silvery moonlight spilled all around them, making the smooth ground shimmer. They pulled out the tents and started to unfold them, but a strange sound made them all stop their work. Ka-thump. Ka-thump. What was that? A camper cried. John shook his head. Probably just the wind. They went back to the tents. They pushed tent poles into the soft, smooth ground. They started to unfold the tents, but the strange sound made them stop again. Ka-thump. Ka-thump. The chill of fear swept over the campers. What is that sound? They asked. Maybe it's some kind of animal, John replied. But it sounds so close, a boy cried. It's coming from right above us, another boy said. Or maybe beneath us? It's just a noise, John told them. Don't worry about it. So they set up the tents, and they spread sleeping bags inside the tents. Ka-thump. Ka-thump. They tried to ignore the sound, but it was so close. So close. And such a strange but familiar sound. What could it be, the campers wondered. What on earth makes a sound like that? Ka-thump. Ka-thump. The campers couldn't sleep. The noise was too loud, too frightening, too near. Ka-thump. Ka-thump. They burrowed deep into their sleeping bags. They zipped themselves in tight. They covered their ears. Ka-thump. Ka-thump. It didn't help. They couldn't escape the sound. John, we can't sleep, they complained. I can't sleep either, John replied. Ka-thump. Ka-thump. What should we do? The campers asked the counselor. John didn't get a chance to answer. They heard another. And then a deep voice growled, Why are you standing on my heart? The ground shook. The campers suddenly realized what the frightening sound was. As the ground rose up, they realized too late they had camped on the smooth skin of a hideous monster. I guess we went too deep into the woods, John cried. His last words. The monster's heartbeat, and then its huge, hairy head lifted up, its mouth pulled open, and it swallowed John and the campers without even chewing. And as they slid down the monster's throat, the sound of the heartbeat grew louder and louder. Ka-thump. 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 Uncle Marv shouted the last ka-thump at the top of his lungs. Some campers screamed. Some gazed at Uncle Marv in silence, their faces tight with fear. Beside me, Lucy hugged herself, biting her bottom lip. Uncle Marv smiled. his face flickering in the dancing orange flames. Laughing, I turned to Elvis. "That's a funny story," I exclaimed. Elvis narrowed his eyes at me. "Huh? Funny?" "Yeah, it's a very funny story," I repeated. Elvis stared hard at me. "But it's true," he said softly. I laughed. "Yeah, for sure," I said, rolling my eyes. I expected Elvis to laugh, but he didn't. The firelight flickered in his pale blue eyes as he stared at me. Then he turned to talk to my brother. A chill ran down my back. Why was he acting so weird? Did he really think I'd believe a crazy story like that was true? I'm 12 years old. I stopped believing in things like the Easter Bunny and the Tooth Fairy a long time ago. I turned to Lucy. She was still hugging herself, staring intently into the fire. "Do you believe him?" I asked, motioning to Elvis. "Is he weird or what?" Lucy stared straight ahead. She seemed so deep in thought, I didn't think she heard me. Finally, she raised her head. She blinked. "What?" "My brother's new friend," I said, pointing to Elvis again. "He said that Uncle Marv's story was true." Lucy nodded, but didn't reply. "I thought it was a funny story," I said. She picked up a twig and tossed it in the fire. I waited for her to say something, but she seemed lost in thought again. The flames of the campfire had died down. Sparkling red embers and chunks of burning wood spread over the ground. Chris and another counselor carried fresh logs into the meeting circle. I watched them rebuild the fire. They piled armfuls of twigs and sticks onto the burning embers. When the sticks burst into flames, the two counselors lowered logs over them. Then they stepped back, and Uncle Marv took his place in front of the fire. He stood with his hands in the pockets of his white shorts. The full moon floated behind his head, making his long black hair shine. He smiled. "And now I will tell the second traditional story of Camp Spirit Moon," he announced. Once again, the circle of campers grew silent. I leaned back, trying to get my brother's attention. But Alex was staring across the fire at Uncle Marv. Alex probably thought the first ghost story was kind of dumb, I knew. He hates ghost stories even more than I do. He thinks they're silly baby stuff. And so do I. So what was Elvis's problem? Was he goofing? Just teasing me, or was he trying to scare me? Uncle Marv's booming voice interrupted my thoughts. "This is a story we tell every year at Camp Spirit Moon," he said. "It's the story of the ghost camp." He lowered his deep voice nearly to a whisper, so that we all had to lean closer to hear him, and in hushed tones, he told us the story of the ghost camp. The story takes place at a camp very much like Camp Spirit Moon. On a warm summer night, the campers and counselors met around a blazing council fire. They roasted hot dogs and toasted marshmallows. They sang the camp songs. One of the counselors played a guitar, and he led them in singing song after song. When they were tired of singing, the counselors took turns telling ghost stories and telling the legends of the camp, legends that had been passed on from camper to camper for nearly 100 years. The evening grew late. The campfire had died low. The moon floated high in the sky, a pale, full moon. The camp director stepped forward to end the council meeting. Suddenly, darkness swept over the circle of campers. They all looked up and saw that the moon had been covered by a heavy blanket of black clouds, and swirls of fog came drifting over the camp. A cold, wet fog. Cloudy gray at first, then darkening and thickening, until the fog swept over the camp, billowing like black smoke. Tumbling and swirling, the cold, wet fog rolled over the dying campfire, rolled over the campers and counselors, over the cabins and the lake and the trees. A choking fog, so thick and dark the campers couldn't see each other, couldn't see the fire, or the ground, or the moon in the sky. The fog lingered for a short while, swirling and tossing low over the ground. Wet, so wet and silent. It moved on just as silently, like smoke blown away. The moonlight shone through. The grass sparkled as if a heavy dew had settled. The fire was out. Dark purple embers sizzled over the ground. The fog swirled away, swept over the trees, and vanished. And the campers sat around the dead campfire, their eyes blank, their arms limp at their sides, not moving, not moving, not moving, because they were no longer alive. The fog had left a ghost camp in its wake. The campers, the counselors, the camp director. They were all ghosts now, all spirits, all ghosts, every last one of them. They climbed to their feet and returned to their bunks. They knew the ghost camp was their home now, forever. With a smile, Uncle Marv stepped back from the fire. I glanced around the circle. The faces were so solemn. No one smiled or laughed. It's a pretty good story, I thought. Kind of scary, but it doesn't have much of an ending. I turned to see what Alex thought, and I gasped when I saw the terrified expression on his face. "Alex, what?" I cried, my voice cutting through the silence of the circle. "What's wrong?" He didn't reply. His eyes were raised to the sky. He pointed up. I gazed up too, and let out a cry of horror as a black, swirling fog came sweeping over the camp. My mouth dropped open as I watched the fog roll closer. It darkened the ground as it moved steadily toward us, darkened the trees, darkened the sky. "This is crazy," I told myself. "This is impossible." I scooted next to Alex. "It's just a coincidence," I told him. He didn't seem to hear me. He jumped to his feet. His whole body trembled. I stood up beside him. "It's only fog," I said, trying to sound calm. "It gets foggy out here in the woods all the time." "Really?" Alex asked in a tiny voice. The black, smoky fog swirled over us. "Of course," I replied. "Hey, we don't believe in ghosts, remember? We don't think ghost stories are scary." But, Alex stuttered. "Why is everyone staring at us?" he finally choked out. I turned and squinted through the thick fog. Alex was right. All around the circle, the other campers had their eyes on Alex and me. Their faces appeared to dim behind the curtain of dark mist. I don't know why they're watching us," I whispered to my brother. Fog billowed around us. I shivered. It felt cold against my skin. "Harry, I don't like this," Alex whispered. The fog was so thick now I could barely see him, even though he stood so close beside me. "I know we don't believe in ghosts," Alex said, "but I don't like this. It's too creepy." From the other side of the circle, Uncle Marv's voice broke the silence. "It's a beautiful fog tonight," he said. "Let's all stand up and sing the camp spirit moon song." Alex and I were already standing. The other campers and counselors obediently climbed to their feet. Their pale faces shimmered in and out of the fog. I rubbed my arms, cold and wet. I dried my face with the front of my t-shirt. The fog grew even heavier and darker as Uncle Marv began to sing. Everyone joined in. Beside me, Alex began to sing, quieter this time. Our voices were muffled by the heavy mist. Even Uncle Marv's booming voice sounded smaller and far away. I tried to sing too, but I didn't know the words, and my own voice came out choked and small. As I stared into the swirling fog, the voices faded. Everyone sang, but the sound sank into the fog. The voices vanished. All of them. All except for Alex's. He seemed to be the only one still singing, his voice pure and soft beside me in the dark mist. And then Alex stopped singing too. The fog swept on. The darkness lifted. Silvery moonlight washed down on us once again. Alex and I gazed around in surprise. No one else remained. Alex and I were all alone in front of the dying fire. I blinked, and blinked again. I don't know what I expected. Did I think they would all appear again? Alex and I gazed across the circle in stunned silence. They had vanished with the fog. The campers, the counselors, Uncle Marv. A chill ran down my spine. My skin still felt damp and cold from the heavy mist. Where? Alex choked out. I swallowed hard. A burned log crumbled into the purple embers. The soft thud startled me. I jumped, and then I started to laugh. Alex squinted at me, studying me. "Harry, don't you see?" I told him. "It's a joke." He squinted at me harder. "Huh?" "It's a camp joke," I explained. "It's a joke they probably always play on new campers here." Alex twisted up his whole face. He was thinking about it, but I don't think he believed me. They all ran off into the woods, I told him. They hid behind the fog and ran away. They were all in on the joke. I'll bet they do it to every new kid. "But the fog," Alex choked out. "I'll bet the fog was a fake," I exclaimed. "They probably have some kind of smoke machine to help them with the joke." Alex rubbed his chin. I could still see the fear in his eyes. "They probably do this all the time," I assured him. "Uncle Marv tells the story, and then somebody turns on the smoke machine. The black smoke rolls over the campfire circle, and everyone runs and hides." Alex turned and stared into the woods. "I don't see anyone hiding back there," he said softly. "I don't see anyone watching us." "I'll bet they're all back at the cabins," I told him. "I'll bet they're waiting for us. Waiting to see the looks on our faces. Waiting to laugh at us for falling for their stupid joke," Alex added. "Let's go," I cried. I slapped him on the shoulder. Then I started running across the wet grass toward the row of cabins. Alex ran close behind. The moon sent a silvery path across the grass in front of us. Sure enough, as we came near the cabins, the campers all came running out. They were laughing and hooting, slapping each other high fives, enjoying their joke. A joke they play on new campers when the fog rolls in, they told us. I saw Lucy laughing along with a bunch of girls. Elvis grabbed Alex and wrestled him playfully to the ground. Everyone teased us and told us how scared we looked. We weren't scared even for a second, I lied. Alex and I figured it out before the fog cleared. That made everyone start laughing and cheering all over again. Ooh! Some of the kids cupped their hands around their mouths and made ghost howls. Ooh! That led to more laughing and joking. I didn't mind the teasing, not a bit. I felt so relieved. My heart was still pounding like crazy, and my knees felt kind of weak. But I felt so happy that it was all a joke. Every summer camp has its jokes, I told myself, and this is a pretty good one. But it didn't fool me. Not for long, anyway. "Lights out in 5 minutes," Uncle Marv's moving command stopped the fun. "Lights out, campers." The kids all turned and scurried to their bunks. I stared down the row of cabins, suddenly confused. "Which one was ours?" "This way, Harry," Alex said. He tugged me toward the third cabin down the path. Alex has a better memory than I do for things like that. Elvis and 2 other guys were already in the cabin when Alex and I came in. They were getting changed for bed. The other guys introduced themselves, Sam and Joey. I made my way to the bunk bed and started to undress. Ooh! A ghostly howl made me jump. I spun around and saw Joey grinning at me. Everyone laughed. Me too. I like camp jokes, I thought. They're mean, but they're kind of fun. I felt something soft and gooey under my bare foot. Yuck! I glanced down, and I saw that I had stepped in a fresh puddle of blue slime. The cabin lights went out, but before they did, I saw blue puddles, fresh blue puddles all over the floor. The cold blue stuff stuck to the bottom of my foot. I stumbled through the dark cabin and found a towel to wipe it off. What are these blue puddles? I asked myself as I climbed up to my top bunk. I glimpsed Joey and Sam in the bunk against the wall. I gasped. They stared back at me, their eyes shining like flashlights. What is going on here? I wondered. What are the sticky blue puddles all over the floor? And why do Sam and Joey's eyes glow like that in the dark? I turned my face to the wall. I tried not to think about anything. I had almost drifted to sleep when I felt a cold, slimy hand sliding down my arm. Huh? I shot straight up, still feeling the cold, wet touch on my skin. I stared at my brother. "Alex, you scared me to death," I whispered. "What do you want?" He stood on his mattress, his dark eyes staring at me. "I can't sleep," he moaned. "Keep trying," I told him sharply. "Why are your hands so cold?" "I don't know," he replied. "It's cold in here, I guess." "You'll get used to it," I said. "You always have trouble sleeping in new places." I yawned. I waited for him to drop back down onto the bottom bunk, but he didn't move. "Harry, you don't believe in ghosts, do you?" he whispered. "Of course not," I told him. "Don't let a couple of silly stories creep you out." "Yeah, right," he agreed. "Good night." I said good night. He disappeared back to his bed. I heard him tossing around down there. He had a very squeaky mattress. Poor guy, I thought. That dumb ghost camp joke with the fog really messed him up. He'll be fine in the morning, I decided. I turned and gazed across the dark cabin toward Joey and Sam's bunks. Were their eyes still glowing so strangely? No. Darkness there. I started to turn away, then stopped, and stared hard. "Oh no," I murmured out loud. In the dim light, I could see Joey, stretched out, asleep, floating 2 feet above his mattress. I scrambled to climb out of bed, my legs tangled in the blanket, and I nearly fell on my head. "Hey, what's up?" I heard Alex whisper below me. I ignored him. I swung myself around and leaped to the floor. Ow! I landed hard, twisting my ankle. Pain shot up my leg, but I ignored it and hobbled to the door. I remembered the light switch was somewhere over there. I had to turn on the light. I had to see for sure that I was right, that Joey slept floating in the air above his bed. "Harry, what's wrong?" Alex called after me. "What's up? What time is it?" I heard Elvis groan sleepily from the bunk against the other wall. I pulled myself across the cabin. My hand fumbled against the wall until I found the light switch. I pushed it up. The overhead light flashed on, flooding the tiny cabin in white light. I raised my eyes to Joey's bunk. He lifted his head from the pillow and squinted down at me. "Harry, what's your problem?" he asked. He was sprawled on his stomach, on top of his blanket. Not floating in the air. Not floating. Resting his head in his hands, yawning and staring down at me. "Turn off the light," Sam barked. "If Uncle Marv catches us with the light on..." But, I sputtered. "Turn it off," Elvis and Sam both insisted. I clicked off the light. "Sorry," I muttered. I thought I saw something. I felt like a jerk. Why did I think I saw Joey floating in the air? I must be as creeped out as Alex, I decided. Now I'm seeing things. I scolded myself and told myself to calm down. "You're just nervous because it's your first day in a new camp," I decided. I started slowly across the cabin to my bed. Halfway there, I stepped in a cold, sticky puddle of goo. The next morning, Alex and I found our white Camp Spirit Moon uniforms, white shorts and t-shirts, waiting for us at the foot of our beds. Now we won't stand out like sore thumbs, I thought happily. Now we can really be part of Camp Spirit Moon. I quickly forgot about my fears from the night before. I couldn't wait for the camp day to get started. That afternoon, Alex tried out for the Spirit Camp Moon talent show. I had to be at the soccer field. A bunch of us were supposed to practice putting up tents. We were getting ready for an overnight in the woods. But I stopped in front of the outdoor stage at the side of the lodge to listen to Alex sing. A counselor named Veronica with long copper-colored hair all the way down her back was in charge of the tryouts. I leaned against a tree and watched. A lot of kids were trying out. I saw 2 guitar players, a boy with a harmonica, a tap dancer, and 2 baton twirlers. Veronica played a small upright piano at the front of the stage. She called Alex up and asked him what song he wanted to sing. He picked a Beatles song he likes. My brother doesn't listen to any new groups. He likes the Beatles and the Beach Boys, all the groups from the 60s. He's the only 11-year-old I know who listens to the oldies. I feel kind of sorry for him, like he was born in the wrong time or something. Veronica played a few notes on the piano and Alex started to sing. What a voice! The other kids had all been laughing and talking and messing around, but after Alex sang for a few seconds, they got real quiet. They huddled close to the stage and listened. He really sounded like a pro. I mean, he could probably sing with a band and make an album. Even Veronica was amazed. I could see her lips form the word "wow" as she played the piano for Alex. When Alex finished singing, the kids all clapped and cheered. Elvis slapped Alex a high five as he hopped off the small stage. Veronica called Elvis up next. He told her he wanted to sing an Elvis song. since he was named after Elvis Presley. He cleared his throat and started to sing a song called Heartbreak Hotel. Well, it really was a heartbreak because Elvis couldn't sing a single note on key. Veronica tried to play along with him, but I could see that she was having trouble. I think she probably wanted to stop playing the piano and cover her ears. Elvis had a high, scratchy voice, and the notes came out really sour enough to make your whole face pucker up. The kids around the stage started grumbling and walking away. Elvis had his eyes shut. He was so wrapped up in his song, he didn't even see them. Doesn't he know how bad he is, I wondered? Why does he want to enter a talent show when he sounds like a squealing dog? Elvis started to repeat the chorus. I decided I had to get away from there before my eardrums popped. I flashed Alex a thumbs up and hurried to the soccer field. Sam, Joey, and a bunch of other kids were already unfolding tents, getting ready for tent-raising practice. Chris, the counselor, was in charge. He waved to me. "Harry, unroll that tent over there," he instructed. "Let's see how fast you can put it up." I picked up the tent. It was bundled tightly, no bigger than a backpack. I turned it over in my hands. I'd never set up a tent before. I wasn't even sure how to unwrap it. Chris saw me puzzling over it and walked over. "It's easy," he said. He pulled 2 straps, and the nylon tent started to unfold. "See? Here are the poles. Just stretch it out and prop it up." He handed the bundle back to me. "Yeah, easy," I repeated. "What's that noise?" Joey asked, looking up from his tent. I listened hard. "It's Elvis singing," I told them. The sour notes floated over the soccer field from the stage. Sam shook his head. "Sounds like an animal caught in a trap," he said. We all laughed. Joey and Sam took off their sneakers and went barefoot. I took mine off too. The warm grass felt good under my feet. I unfolded the tent and spread it out on the grass. I piled the tent poles to the side. The sun felt hot on the back of my neck. I slapped a mosquito on my arm. I heard a shout and glanced up to see Sam and Joey wrestling around. They weren't fighting. They were just goofing. They both picked up tent poles and started dueling with them, having a wild sword fight. They were laughing and having fun, but then Sam tripped over a tent. He lost his balance, stumbled forward, fell hard. I let out a scream as the tent pole went right through his foot.